Here's the steering coupler coming out of the firewall where it would have gone into the steering gearbox. There's also this boot which would have sealed up that spot, and anybody familiar with the 210s, when this boot fails, you can just hear all kinds of noise coming from your feet. So not only does this keep the water and everything out, which I'm not really concerned with, I probably won't drive it in the rain, but it keeps a lot of the sound out. So I'm going to try to get this to work somehow. I'm not sure how yet. But with the coupler removed, I have another U-joint coupler that's going to go in its place, and I'm thinking with that U-joint, I'm going to install, because this can move, and when it's trying to twist a U-joint, I'd rather it be stationary with some type of bearing support. So I'm going to try to adapt this. I've already had to cut it down to get it to fit the way I want it to fit, but I am going to try to somehow get this mounted to keep the shaft stationary and supported while turning the U-joint. So I'll show you what it looks like when it's finished. Here we have the final install. I was able to use a little bit of that boot, so I think it's gonna be fine to keep the noise out, and everything fit really nice. So that's what I would recommend. Again, don't have much money in this. The coupler itself is just a modified 164 chassis. That'd be your ML, GL, later trucks, and it comes substantially longer from the factory, and then just cut it down, and it's been welded, and a bolt as well, just as kind of like a safety. So pretty much done with that. I can tell you now that the exhaust runs around the outside. So I have the exhaust running through the outside. I did clearance that area a little bit, but it really wasn't even that close. So I just wanted to make sure once everything was in, I wasn't going to have an issue there. But if I can, I'll show you now the steering rack. I utilized the holes that are existing in the cross member. So these 4 holes are what I use to mount the plate, which I'll show you, that the steering rack gets mounted to. So didn't have to weld any brackets, and just bolted. It's definitely not going anywhere with the size bolts I have. And then I just nut it on the back side through the motor mount openings. So I'll have all this done and kind of sealed up, and then once the engine goes in, the only way that's coming back out is to have the engine out so you can access it through the motor mount holes. A lot of guys would just weld it, but with it being a steering rack, I just personally felt better, safer to have it just physically welded, or I'm sorry, mounted to this cross member with no issues about weld integrity or anything like that. So we'll see.